All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to 7 must-see sites in Moab, Utah. My name is Pete DeMarco, and thank you all for being here today. I have a friend of mine, fellow photographer here in Connecticut, helping me out. His name is Joe Howard. He'll be in the chat. If you guys have any questions, you can just type your question into there. And either I'll get to it during our talk or at the very end during the Q&A. So just a quick bit about me. I'm an artist and mentor to outdoor photographers. Teaching is my superpower. I love to teach. I'm from Connecticut. I also love to travel. I've been to over 50 countries. I've lived in Europe as well as Asia for over 20 years. I started photography in 2006. I bought a little point and shoot camera and haven't looked back since. And I've been published in Nat Geo Traveler and Condé Nast and other travel magazines. And also, I really love being outdoors. I love the challenge of night photography. And I also really like the social aspects of photography. So here, this picture on the top left, this is a workshop that I led, a tour, a photography tour that I led in Vietnam a few years back. The top right is a meetup that I did in Hong Kong. The bottom left is kind of was like a photography meetup and photo challenge, kind of like a photo challenge that I did in Kuala Lumpur. And the one on the bottom right was in Singapore. So for me, like I said, I've always enjoyed just meeting other photographers and helping other photographers to really hone their vision and take better photos. So to get to our, why Moab? Why are we talking about, why am I talking about Moab today? A big reason first that everybody should know is that Moab is one of the darkest places in the country. So you can see here, there's a light pollution map of the US, and every year the light pollution gets worse. It keeps kind of spreading across the US. And right in that little black area, that's right where Moab is, and Canyonlands National Park and Arches National Park. So why are dark skies important? The main reason, obviously, well, if you've ever done any astrophotography or night photography, the darker your sky is, the more stars are in the sky. They're not necessarily brighter, it's just that you can see a lot more of them. So to measure how dark a sky is, we use something called the Bortle scale. And you can see at the bottom here, like a number 8 or 9. That's if you're in a large city. And number 1 is considered the best. This is a dark sky site. But even number 2 is amazing, or even 3. There's a lot of places here in Connecticut, I would say, are like a number 3. And you can still get amazing photos here, like in northwestern Connecticut, even if you live near a big city. So Moab is great because, well, Moab itself is actually not a number 1. Moab has some light pollution, and I'll actually show you a photo where you can see it. But Canyonlands National Park is a class 1, so it has some of the darkest skies in the world. And Arches National Park is a class 2, which is also crazy dark. I think it's a class 2 and not a class 1 because you can see Moab, the light from Moab. And like I said, I'll show you that in a minute. So today I'm going to talk about 5 or 7 top sites that you should see in Moab. And the first one is Delicate Arch. This is, you've probably seen this on, if you've been to Utah, it's on every license plate. This is like the most iconic image or symbol of Utah. Yeah. So Joe's holding up his shirt. He's got it on his shirt. You can see me. I have I'm sporting my Moab cap with Delicate Arch. And Delicate Arch is located in Arches National Park. It's amazing to shoot anytime, sunrise, sunset, with the Milky Way, and also with the full moon. A lot of people only think about the Milky Way, but using the moon is really cool because you can use the moonlight to light up the landscape, as I did in this shot here. And I like how it kind of made this little heart. I didn't notice until after, but it's a kind of like I Heart Utah or something like that. And that's my friend there standing under the arch. This is on my last trip out there a few months ago. I had I waited till about 2 a.m. and the Milky Way was kind of shooting through the arch here. And that's what I was going for. It was like the kind of pre-planning. If you look at this photo, you can see the clouds, and then the clouds are kind of like they're kind of lit up. And that area in front of me or inside the arch is lit up. That's light pollution from Moab. So if you go straight out, maybe like 5-10 miles, that's Moab in this valley, which I'm going to show you later. So it's kind of interesting that the arch faces Moab and you get this light pollution. I did make it a little bit brighter in post, that center part of the arch, because I wanted it to kind of pop out a little more. So in October, I'm running a workshop in Moab. And one thing that I like to do is kind of plan my shots ahead of time. I use an app called Photo Pills. And I was just checking, and in October, this is one shot I have on my list that I want to shoot with everyone on the workshop, is to get the Milky Way rising straight up through the arch right there. A second popular spot in Arches National Park is called the Windows section. And the windows are like, they call it the kind of heart of Arches National Park. And there's a ton of stuff around there, a ton of arches. So this is actually what they call the north and south window. And if you look in the top, in the left window, you can see a few little lights. Those are headlamps from people trying to climb up into the arch. So just to give you an idea of the scale, like it doesn't look that big here, but it's actually, this is probably like maybe 5 stories high or more. It's pretty big. So in the windows section, you have a whole ton of arches and stuff. It's kind of like a photographer's jungle gym. One part that you have is called turret arch, and you can see that right on the left, right in the middle. That's the turret arch right there. And then around that, I put these 2 little maps. There's the windows right there. There's turret arch. And then at the just north of that, there's double arch. And all of these are like a 5 to 10 minute walk from each other. Here's another look at the top of the kind of windows section. And another big tip I have for shooting in Moab is, you have all this red rock and orange rock. And the best is if you can capture that golden light, the golden hour light. I like to do to get there early. So here's an example of 2 photos. The top left was taken at 7 p.m. and the one just below it was taken 5 minutes later. That's it. But there's a drastic difference in the light of each of these photos simply because the sun was like peeking out behind some clouds. So I would get there well before sunset to make sure that you can capture the light when it does pass through. Another, if you go to the back side of the south window, you can kind of climb up on the rock and sit under there. This is actually a composite photo with some star trails that I took in another location and then kind of layered them in over this shot here. Everything's really dark. You can't do light painting in Arches National Parks, since it's a dark sky park, they don't allow you to like shine flashlights on the walls and stuff. So, but there's ways around that, and I'll talk a little bit about that. This is next to the windows. There's another place called Double Arch, and this is a friend of mine and his wife. I like to pose people when I'm taking photos, so I said, hey, go on up there and stand up on that rock. The light is, so the moon is to the top left, and the moonlight was kind of fading over to the right side. So that light that you see there is actually moonlight. Oh. So a few tips when you go there, scout the area in the day. It's really important because if you go off trail, it's rocky, you don't know where you're going. It helps if you're doing night photography, go in the daytime, find your spot, and then go back in the evening. Like I said earlier, I use an app like Photo Pills or other apps to kind of plan your photos. And then also panoramas are really good. And I'll show you one in a second. this poster, and you'll see a couple of them. This is from the National Park Service. I love they have the coolest posters. They have this big kind of marketing campaign about half the park is after dark, to kind of show that it's not just for the daytime, it's also for the nighttime, because you have these dark sky parks. And they call Arches National Park the land of 1,000 windows because you have so many arches there. This is the Milky Way over the north and south windows. This is a 5-tile panorama. It's all single exposures. I actually do sometimes stack my photos to reduce noise. And I did that for this, but I just haven't had time yet to actually do the final edit of this photo. But I wanted to give you just a quick idea of what's possible. This was a 25-second exposure, f2.8, ISO 6400. I used a Sony a7 III and a Samyang, or also in the US known as Rokinon or Rokinon. I don't even know how you say it, Joe.
Rokinon.
Rokinon.
Yeah.
So, and then if you, again, I talked about light pollution. If you look over to the right, the very far right of the photo, you can see a little bit of light coming from the far right. That's Moab. Moab is like in a valley, or almost like it's like a bowl. And so Arches is up on like a plateau. So I kind of like this composition because it was like the light is kind of, like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow or something like that. It's just one thing I was thinking. Next up is Balanced Rock. Balanced Rock is probably another or one of the most iconic locations in the park. You can see it's on postcards and everything like that. And so the earlier photo of Turret Arch with the sun, when I said, oh, you have to get there early because the sun might peek through the clouds. So if you look at, this was like that moment when I took that Turret Arch photo where the landscape is lit up that golden color. That was right now, but I just turned a 180 and looked behind me and took this photo and then turned around and took the other photo. So just to give you an idea, like the sun peeked through the clouds, there was that orange light, and within a minute or two, it was gone. So again, just kind of getting there early and waiting for your shot to come to you rather than always like chasing. So some good things about Balanced Rock are some tips. If you go to Balanced Rock, there's a parking lot right next to it. It's like 2 minutes from the parking lot. It's so easy to get to. But the headlights, when they pull in, they can shine on Balanced Rock. And so if you are doing a long exposure, you could blow out your landscape, but it could also add like a nice element to your photo too, because it could light it up. There's no light painting, but maybe you could use the headlights. So anyways, just be patient and keep that in mind. Balanced Rock is an awesome place for the Milky Way because you can walk around it. You can just kind of like figure out what your composition is. It's not like you have to stand in exactly one place. And also I want to take a shot just like this in October at Balanced Rock. When the Milky Way is coming up, it'll be straight up and right behind Balanced Rock. So I think it'll make a really cool composition for everyone to capture. Okay, next up is Mesa Arch. Mesa Arch is another of those like super iconic locations. This is actually one of the most photographed places in the southwestern US, I think. You've probably seen a photo from here, but at sunrise. So at sunrise, the sun rises kind of where those mountains are. That's the La Salle mountain range. And the sun lights up the bottom of Mesa Arch, and it kind of has this glow. And in the morning, there's like photographers lined up shoulder to shoulder. You could maybe fit 12 people shoulder to shoulder. I actually haven't been there in the morning, but everybody tells me it's just mobbed and people are fighting because it's actually quite small. It looks big here, but you'll see in a minute, it's a lot smaller. And so this is a photo I took at night. This was a single exposure, 28 minutes, ISO 50. I think it was 11 or 16, f11 or 16. I can't remember because my lens is manual, and since it's Samyang or Rokinon. It doesn't read the f stop. So I think I put it 11 or 16. I don't normally do, if I do star trails, I don't normally do this one long exposure for 28 minutes. It's not the best way to do it, but I was just kind of curious and playing around to do the kind of old school style where you just open up your shutter and just let it run for 20 minutes and see what you get. So, um, anyways, you can see it's super bright, and that's because there was like a quarter moon. You don't need a bright moon to light up a landscape when you do a long exposure. You could maybe shoot for, even if you have like 20% of the moon or 30% brightness in the moon, you can light up a whole landscape. Like it's not, you don't need a lot. And that, in fact, the full moon is almost too bright. It looks blown out, kind of like daylight. In fact, that's kind of like what this looks like here almost. But the photo above it, I took with my phone, um, an iPhone 13 in night mode, handheld. I just took the shot to kind of show what the behind the scenes looks like. You can see my tripod and camera bag. You can see it's not that big there. One thing I didn't know, there's a steep freaking drop right in front of that. Like it just goes down and down and down.
Yeah,
Like
gotta be careful there.
Yeah, you have to be careful.
That's
So
a deep canyon.
it is. It's a super deep canyon. So
Same thing as at Delicate Arch.
at where?
Delicate Arch.
Yes, Delicate Arch is the same. In fact, when I
You have
was
to be so careful.
right, in fact, when I was standing at the under the arch, I was like, "Oh my God, this is like a straight drop down." So, yeah, you have to be
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah, the bowl's also scary too. Right in front of the arch. Either fall back or you fall
Right,
into the deep
right,
bowl.
right.
Exactly. It's incredible.
So number five, my top five, one of my top seven spots. Number five is Canyonlands National Park. There's a place called the Green River Overlook, and Canyonlands is like what it sounds. It's massive canyons. It's kind of like reminiscent of the Grand Canyon, although not as big as the Grand Canyon, but you have that feeling when you're there of just feeling so small, just kind of like enveloped by nature and just, you just feel small in the grand scheme of things. It's a really cool feeling. And that's what I love about Moab is that you have these two separate national parks, but they offer very different stuff. They're both high desert, they're both rocks, but you go to one and you get these grand booming vistas, and then you can go to the other, you have these more intimate small scenes that you can work with. So it offers like something for everyone. During the workshop, I also checked out this spot. So where that Green River is, or this whole area, the canyon, right above this is the Milky Way. It's going to rise at 8:30 p.m. on October 12th or 15th. So you'll see this. Imagine this as the bottom third of your photo, and then above it, just a massive Milky Way core rising above it. It's going to be so awesome. And then the location is so cool shooting here because you're like way up on I don't even want to call it a cliff. It's like a ledge or whatever. So you're up so high. It's just a really cool thing. Also, this is a panorama. I think I took maybe 5 photos and stitched them together here. So I zoomed in at, I think, 70 millimeters. I like to do that a lot when I thought I put that slide in here. I guess it didn't get in there. I like to zoom in, say 70, 100 millimeters, and then do a panorama because you have a lot more resolution to work with, which means you can blow it up much bigger. You can crop it more. You'll have a lot of resolution if you want to print it. And this stuff is so far away that you almost need to zoom in. If you don't make a panorama, then your scene is going to be too small. You won't be able to shoot wide enough to get this huge area. So that's what I do when I'm shooting that. Another great spot, although it's not necessarily a photo spot, it can be, but I just wanted to say something about Moab. Moab is awesome. It's such a cool little town. Like it's very unique. It's one of the most unique little places that I've seen in America. What I like about it is it's in the middle of the desert, and if you look, it's basically just barren, high plateau, high desert around you, and there's nothing there except there's this little oasis in the middle of it all, which is cut through by that river is the Colorado River. And it's a kind of like quirky little town. It's only has 5,000 people in it, but it probably doubles or triples or more when there's, a lot of tourists. It's up high, 1,000 meters. So it's a quirky little town, and they've got a great food scene. And you can also see the La Salle Mountains in the distance, which for me, it's just like icing on the cake. Like it's already an amazing place, but here in Connecticut, we don't have mountains like that. I think Ala does in Minnesota, maybe, but for me, that's just like holy cow, like Colorado or something. Like that's like a real treat for me. Another treat were the salted caramel crow doughs at this it's called Dough Bird, I think it's called. These things are amazing, but there's lots of great little restaurants, international style, everything. It's such a cool, fun little town. Love it. Also, right on the edge of Moab, you can go off-roading. So it's big with people with like 4x4s or side-by-sides, as they call them. Canyoneering, that's a little hike I did with a good friend of mine who's from Utah and lives in Moab. And then also really cool, there's loads and loads of history in that area. People have been living in there in the area on the Colorado Plateau for over 1,000 years. Loads of indigenous peoples. You can see here, there's a petroglyphs. So you're just hiking and then you see stuff like this and you're just like, what? We don't have that in Connecticut. So yeah.
No, nothing like that.
Also, it's a huge, huge outdoor destination. It's like Moab almost has a feel of like what I imagine like like a Colorado ski town would be, but without skiing. Instead, it's mountain biking, it's river rafting, it's 4x4s, mountain biking, climbing. It's a huge rock climbing destination. It's like the mecca of rock climbing in America, as you can imagine. So this is a float I did down the river with some friends. And last but not least, there's going to
Wait a
be.
minute. Have you ever, sorry,
Yeah, go
sorry
ahead.
to interrupt.
No, that's
Did you
okay.
ever do Moab at night? The river?
No, I haven't.
If you should.
Okay.
It is absolutely incredible.
All right. I
They
gotta.
have a special tour and they take you down the canyons at night.
Oh, that sounds
So
amazing.
Wow.
I definitely have
Yeah.
to do that.
Put that on your bucket.
Yeah, there's they have river rafting companies, so you can find whatever
Right.
adventure that you want to sign up for. You can find it there. Okay, so last but not least is the annular eclipse, and I'm sorry, this is not my photo, and I didn't forgot to put credit whoever took it. But this it was a Creative Commons photo that I took. I'm sorry to whoever it is. I'll link to it after. This is what an annular solar eclipse looks like. So they call it a ring of fire eclipse as opposed to like a total solar eclipse. You have this kind of ring around the outside. It'll happen in the US on October 14th. In Utah, it will pass over Utah around 10:30 in the morning. Well, it'll start, I think, at 9:30 in the morning. By around 10:30 or 10:45, it will be the maximum obscuration. Is that a word? Maximum obscuration of the sun during the eclipse. And that'll last, depending on where you are in the path of the eclipse, that will last anywhere from a minute to about 4 minutes. So the more on the center of the eclipse you are, the longer that duration lasts. And also, if you're not on the exact center, you're not going to see it perfectly round, like a ring all the way around. So in the US, even if you're not in Utah, like if you're in Illinois or Nashville, you're going to see half of the sun covered on that day. Whereas if you're in, say, northern Nevada or central New Mexico or southern Texas, you're going to see you're right in the path. Here's another shot. This one I did credit. This is Kevin Baird in New Mexico. This was on May 21st, 2012. This is what an annular eclipse looks like. I've never seen an eclipse, and this is like a bucket list, not just a bucket list photo item, but a bucket list life item. I've always wanted to see an eclipse. So if you want to track an eclipse, I recommend go to Google, type in interactive eclipse Mac Javier 2023 map, and you'll get this interactive map. This is what the big map looks like, but you could zoom way in down to like a town detail. And if you see the blue line in the middle of the red lines, that's the exact center. So if you're on the blue line, that's when you get that full 4 minutes of eclipse time, and you get the annular, the perfect ring, equidistant around the whole sun. And also if you use the app called Photo Pills, in Photo Pills, there's an option to see eclipses. And then if you just turn on the eclipse map overlay, you can pop in your destination and you'll see how long the eclipse is going to happen for, where it's going to happen, and where the path is. So that's also super helpful if you have Photo Pills.
I saw the 2017 eclipse. It was something very special.
That was the total solar eclipse, right?
That was a total solar eclipse. It was an incredible experience. Next one's next year.
Where did you see that?
Unfortunately, it was nowhere cool. I was just in my aunt's backyard, but I got to witness it, and it was magical to go from everything was bright, and then all of a sudden everything was just dark, but it wasn't nighttime. And the birds the insects started chirping. They thought it was time to go to sleep, but wow. And then 2 minutes later, it was right back to sunny. It was a really amazing experience.
I definitely want to. That's
get your solar filters though.
Yes,
don't forget, right. They help a lot. No, you need them.
Yep. Okay, so about the astrophotography workshop that I'm running, it's from October 10th to the 15th in Utah. And there'll be a lot of post-processing classes, image reviews, in-the-field instruction. Their hotel is also included. It's at the Holiday Inn Express, which is just like 5 minutes from the entrance to Arches National Park and very close, just 5 minutes from downtown Moab. These are just kind of the bullet points. If you want to get the full details and find out everything that's included, because there's more included than this, some meals and park entrance fees and some other things, just go to the tour link down here below. And if you have any questions, you can email me. There's my email. And I'm also happy to jump on a call or a Zoom with anyone if you'd like to talk one-to-one. So
I'm going to link the tour in the chat.
Thank you. I was going to just ask you to do that. So, oh, cool. Right on time too. So that's all I have to share about Moab, but now I want to do a Q&A and give you all a chance to ask any questions, whether they're about night photography, astrophotography, Moab, the workshop, or whatever. Feel free to ask.